Hi, folks. Steve Urban here. Today's episode of the Riderflex podcast is sponsored by our friends at SureUp, an engagement platform designed to educate members and propel them forward on a variety of total wellness topics. Learn more about how you can leverage SureUp to attract, retain, and reward your employees at sureup.com. And be sure to use the enrollment code Riderflex. And on today's episode of the Riderflex podcast, hey, if you are a business owner or a CEO, or you're the captain of the ship, so to speak, in whatever your situation is, it can be lonely at the top. Now, for those of you that have never been in that situation, it's hard for me to describe what it's like. But really, it can be super lonely in that situation. And by the way, I'm recording this episode during the coronavirus, which is going to be a very tough market for everybody and tough business overall. So really super lonely to be at the top right now, trying to make a bunch of decisions to keep business going. I want to give you a few tips here, and this comes from my own experience in running about a $40 million company back in 08 and 09 during the financial downturn that many of you will remember. It was tough for me during that period being a captain of a ship. And so I know there's going to be lots of people during this time in 2020. It's going to be lonely for you and very difficult as tough decisions are ahead. So I want to give you just a few tips here if you are the captain of the ship. Really 3 things I want to share with you. Number 1, find somebody to talk to that's at your level. A fellow CEO, a mentor, an advisor. Find somebody that you can lean on and share your secrets with. Find somebody that you can be vulnerable with. Cry on their shoulder, so to speak. And sometimes I mean literally cry on their shoulder. Find somebody that you can do that with. It's a super stressful situation to be the captain of the ship during tough times. And if you're bottling all that up, it's just going to eat away at you. And it's not a healthy situation physically or mentally. So find somebody that you can talk to. And remember, you can't really share everything with your direct reports, right? Not everything. For example, you can't really share all the cash flow or financial situation with them. I mean, you try to share as much as you can, but you can't tell them everything, right? Because you don't want to scare them to death. And sometimes if you tell them everything, they might all jump ship if they think the ship's about to go underwater. So you got to have somebody you can talk to, right? So my first piece of advice, if you're at the top, is find somebody to rely on, somebody that you can call, whether it's a shrink or whatever. Find somebody that you can talk to. Number 2, be careful with your vices. What do I mean by that? Whether it's what you eat, what you drink, what you smoke, what pills you take, whatever it is, be careful, because in tough times, well, first of all, keep in mind, it's tough being the captain of the ship on a regular day. It sure as hell is tough during the coronavirus situation, March, April, May of 2020. Really tough, right? 10 times as tough. And it's just tough being a CEO or the captain of the ship on a normal day. So be careful with your vices. Don't let those get to you, whatever that is, okay? Whatever it might be. And by the way, we all have them, so don't pretend like you don't, okay? Whatever that vice is, I don't know, whatever it might be, some sort of habit you have, okay? Just be careful. Don't let it get away from you during times like this. And number 3, this really touches a little bit on number 1, but I just want to go a little deeper. Number 3 is this: during these tough times and you're the captain of the ship, just be real careful on how much you share with the entire team. You just can't. As much as you want to tell everybody at every level, what's going on and why you're making the decisions you're making. You just can't. The reality is you just can't tell them everything all the time. And I could go into a 2-hour podcast episode on that topic, but you just can't. Sometimes you can't share everything. Here's a perfect example. One time, and this goes back to 08, 09, I had a 40-person layoff that I was executing as the C-level executive for a company. And one of the people that was going to be on the list was the HR person helping me do the layoffs. Let that sink in. Well, I couldn't tell her right away, right? I couldn't tell her, hey, I need your help laying off all these people. And then, by the way, as soon as you're done, I'm going to lay you off, right? I mean, I couldn't tell her at the time. Now, you might think that's super mean and cold and all the rest of it, but in that situation, I needed that person to get some things done before they took off on me. And then I had to lay her off after she was done laying off the rest. That was a super tough emotional time for me. It was for her as well. And you can tell here it is 12 years later, I'm still having bad dreams about that. But anyway, what's my point? Sorry, I started going off on a tangent or giving you a story. But my point is, number 3 was just be careful. You can't share everything, which takes me all the way back to point number 1, find somebody you can tell things to. Find somebody outside the company or a fellow CEO that you can talk to, because it's tough keeping all this stuff bottled up inside. So in summary, it can be lonely at the top. My top 3 pieces of advice for you are: find somebody you can talk to that you can trust, that's not a direct report or one of your employees. Number 2, be careful with your vices. And number 3, when you are sharing information with your team, be careful about how much you're sharing. Right? I know you want to tell them everything, but you just can't for a bunch of reasons. And like I said, we could do a whole podcast on that topic. And there is your Riderflex tip of the day. The Riderflex podcast features entrepreneurs, business executives, and the stories behind how they got there, as well as daily tips on career advice and job interviews. Our show can be heard just about anywhere these days, but you can visit riderflex.com and click on the podcast page to hear all the previous episodes and learn more about the recruiting and consulting services we provide. Contact us at the email address info@riderflex.com or 888-964-5876. Thanks so much for listening, and if you enjoy our show, please be sure to subscribe to our channel and like the episodes.